Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine walking through a dense forest at dawn. The mist clings to the trees like a secret the world isn't ready to share. You can hear your own breath, slow and deep, and somewhere in the distance a single bird calls, its voice trembling in the cold morning air. You take one step, then another, and suddenly you notice a path, narrow, almost hidden, as if it has been waiting only for you. But you keep walking past it, telling yourself you'll come back later. You don't know that this was the sign, the very invitation your soul has been waiting for. And now you have delayed your awakening. What if I told you that life is constantly whispering to you, sending you signals that are not random, not accidental, but precisely aligned with the evolution of your soul? What if I told you that each time you ignore them, the path grows fainter and the forest of your life grows thicker, darker, more difficult to navigate? Awakening is not a single dramatic moment where the sky opens and truth descends upon you. It is a series of quiet knocks, often so subtle they can be mistaken for coincidence. It is the soft ache in your heart when you're living out of alignment. It is the strange déjà vu that makes you pause in the middle of an ordinary day. It is the dream you wake from with tears in your eyes, unsure why it felt more real than waking life. In neuroscience, there is a concept called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on the thoughts, emotions, and experiences we feed it. Every choice you make, every perception you allow, reshapes the very structure of your mind. From a spiritual lens, these signals are not just mental events. They are vibrational markers from the universe, encoded in your consciousness, guiding you toward a higher frequency. Ignore them, and the rewiring slows. Your evolution stalls, your soul's symphony plays in a lower octave. This isn't about superstition or blind faith. Quantum physics suggests that the observer, you, is not separate from the reality being observed. In the field of infinite possibilities, your attention acts like a tuning fork. The signs you receive are frequencies resonating with the reality your soul is ready to embody. But if you turn away, you're not just missing a chance. You're delaying the entire sequence of synchronicities that would have unfolded from that single yes. Perhaps you've felt it before. That inexplicable pull toward a book, a person, a place. Something inside whispered, "This matters." And yet, out of fear, doubt, or distraction, you stepped back. Hours turned into days, days into years, and the moment dissolved like mist under the sun. That was a sign, and you walked past it. The pain of delay is subtle but deep. It manifests as a lingering emptiness, a quiet discontent that no achievement or possession can fill. It's the mind asking, "Is this all there is?" While the soul answers, "No, but you must listen." The voice of the universe is rarely loud. It prefers whispers over shouts, symbols over explanations. Sometimes it speaks through a conversation you overhear in a cafe, sometimes through the sudden appearance of a word you've never seen before, sometimes through the storm that forces you to cancel your plans, not to punish you, but to redirect you. Ignoring these signs is not a moral failure. It's a human tendency to cling to what feels safe, even when it suffocates us. But awakening requires risk, the willingness to follow a thread of mystery without knowing where it leads. Every great transformation begins with a moment you could have dismissed, but instead you chose to lean in. So I ask you, what signs have been appearing in your life lately? And more importantly, which ones have you been ignoring? Because in this journey, the cost of inattention is not just lost time. It is a delayed becoming, and the longer you wait, the longer your soul remains a traveler circling the forest instead of walking the hidden path meant only for you. Imagine for a moment that your life is a vast ocean. Every decision, every emotion, every thought you have sends out a ripple across its surface. Some ripples are small and vanish quickly. Others stretch far beyond what you can see, colliding with other waves, creating patterns that you will only understand years later. What you call a sign is often the first ripple of a much larger wave, a wave set in motion by both your own consciousness and the deeper intelligence of the universe. From the perspective of neuroscience, your brain is not just a passive receiver of reality. It is a filtering system. Out of the billions of bits of sensory information available every second, your brain consciously processes only a tiny fraction. What determines which signals you notice and which ones fade into the background? The answer lies in your reticular activating system, RAS, a network in your brainstem that acts as a gatekeeper for your attention. When something holds meaning for you, whether you're aware of it or not, your RAS begins to light up whenever related information appears in your environment. It's the reason you suddenly notice a specific word everywhere after hearing it for the first time, or why a random sentence in a book feels like it was written for you. Spiritually speaking, this is how the universe marks certain experiences so they stand out in your awareness. But here's where the deeper mystery unfolds. Modern physics, particularly quantum theory, suggests that reality does not exist in a fixed state until it is observed. The observer effect tells us that the act of observation influences the outcome. In other words, your attention is not passive, it is creative. When you notice a sign, you are not simply stumbling upon it, you are co-participating in its manifestation. Your awareness is the tuning fork that resonates with that specific possibility, collapsing it into your reality. Think about that. The signs you receive are not just chance occurrences, they are evidence of a conversation between your inner world and the fabric of existence itself. Dr. Bruce Lipton, a pioneer in epigenetics, has shown that your beliefs and emotions influence your biology at the cellular level. If your thoughts can alter your body's chemistry, why wouldn't they also alter the pathways of your life? The signs are both invitations and confirmations. They appear when your inner frequency matches the lesson or opportunity that is ready to enter your life. This is why ignoring a sign has such a profound effect. When you dismiss it, you're not simply walking away from a random event. You are telling your nervous system, this is not important. Your RAS will then deprioritize similar signals in the future. Over time, the neural pathways associated with that kind of awareness weaken. Spiritually, it's as though you are turning down the volume on the universe's guidance, making it harder to hear. The opposite is also true. When you honor a sign, even in a small way, you strengthen the neural circuits that recognize synchronicity. Your brain learns to expect meaningful patterns, and your reality begins to reflect that expectation. You enter what Carl Jung called a state of synchronicity, where inner and outer worlds begin to mirror each other with startling precision. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine you are in a dark room with a single candle. The light reveals only a small part of the space. If you ignore the flicker of that candle, the sign, the darkness remains, and you navigate by memory and habit. But if you move toward the candle, if you shield it from the wind and let it grow, more of the room becomes visible. Eventually, you see doors you never knew were there. The signs are those candles. Ignore them, and you stay confined. Follow them, and you discover passageways to the next chapter of your existence. There's also a deeper layer here, one that blends neuroscience with spiritual energetics. Your brain communicates not only through electrical impulses, but also through electromagnetic fields. The heart, in fact, generates an electromagnetic field many times stronger than the brain's. Researchers like Greg Braden have explored how coherent states of heart and mind create a resonance that can influence reality on a quantum level. When your emotions and thoughts are in harmony, gratitude, love, curiosity, your entire system becomes a highly sensitive receiver for signs. Incoherence, however, states of fear, cynicism, and self-doubt creates static, making the signals harder to detect. The universe does not punish you for missing a sign, but it will wait for you, and while it waits, it will keep sending echoes of that same lesson in different forms until you are ready to listen. This is why certain patterns keep repeating in people's lives, the same types of relationships, the same challenges at work, the same inner battles. These are not failures, they are the universe's persistence. They are the cosmic equivalent of a gentle hand on your shoulder, turning you toward the path you keep overlooking. To live in alignment with your awakening is to live in a state of attuned presence. This doesn't mean obsessively scanning for hidden messages in everything, but rather cultivating the openness to notice when something lands in your heart with a weight that cannot be explained by logic alone. And so the science and spirituality of signs meet in this truth. Your biology is designed to notice them. Your consciousness is designed to create them. And your soul is designed to follow them. The question is, will you? Because every sign is a thread, and when you pull on it, you unravel a version of yourself that has been waiting quietly in the folds of possibility. Ignore it, and that thread remains, but the tapestry of your becoming stays unfinished. Follow it, and you weave something entirely new, a life shaped not by chance, but by resonance. There is a weight you carry that no one else can see. It's not the weight of your responsibilities, your past mistakes, or even the losses you've endured. It's the quiet heaviness of the life unlived, the version of yourself that could have been born, if only you had listened when the universe whispered. When you ignore a sign, it doesn't vanish. It settles into you. It becomes a subtle ache, a small fracture in the integrity of your inner world. And while the conscious mind is quick to dismiss it, it was nothing, just coincidence. I'll act next time. The deeper layers of your being know the truth. You turned away from an opening meant for you, and the soul remembers. This is why the emotional cost of ignoring signs is not measured in single moments, but in the quiet accumulation of unlived potential. One missed signal rarely feels like a tragedy, but repeated enough times it becomes a pattern, a way of being. You begin to expect less from life. You stop looking for the extraordinary. You tell yourself that magic belongs to others, not to you. In neuroscience, this is known as learned helplessness, a state where the brain, after repeated experiences of inaction or failure, stops attempting change even when the opportunity arises. The nervous system adapts to inattention, and your capacity to notice synchronicity dulls. Spiritually, it's as if your inner compass grows silent. The signs may still surround you, but your perception drifts into static. This disconnection has a cost, not only to your spirit, but to your mind and body. When you dismiss a sign, you're not just ignoring a potential external event. You're overriding an intuitive signal from your own subconscious. That act of suppression generates tension in the nervous system. Over time, this tension can manifest as anxiety, restlessness, or a persistent sense of dissatisfaction, even when life looks fine on the outside. Imagine a tree that feels the pull of sunlight in a specific direction, but chooses to grow against it. The trunk may still be strong, the leaves still green, but the growth is strained, awkward, misaligned. Your soul works the same way. Signs are the light sources calling you into alignment. Ignore them, and you may survive, but you will not flourish. And here is the most paradoxical truth. Ignoring a sign does not remove its lesson from your life. It delays it. The universe is patient beyond measure. It will loop the same teachings back to you in different forms, another relationship, another job, another challenge, until you are ready to engage. And while this persistence is an act of love, it can feel like a burden when you do not yet understand it. This is why so many people say, "Why does this keep happening to me?" The answer is simple. The sign has been ignored, and the lesson waits. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is the essence of delay. Every time you turn away from a sign, the unconscious retains its hold on the direction of your life. You may feel as though you are drifting, waiting for something to change, yet that something is waiting for you. There is also a more intimate cost, the erosion of self-trust. When you repeatedly dismiss the signals that arise from within, you begin to distrust your own perception. You start second-guessing every intuitive nudge, every inner knowing. This can spiral into a kind of spiritual disorientation, where even when the next sign appears, you hesitate, unsure if it's real. In this way, the cost of ignoring one sign extends far beyond that moment. It shapes the very way you engage with reality. From the perspective of quantum consciousness, each sign is a probability portal, a branching point where your choices determine which version of reality becomes solid. Ignoring it means choosing the path of inertia, and while the universe will offer new portals again and again, each delay shifts the timeline, altering the sequence of events that could have unfolded. Some opportunities will return. Others are unique to the moment they appear. The emotional toll of this is not always immediate. Sometimes it emerges years later in the form of nostalgia for something you can't name. You feel the shadow of the path not taken, a phantom memory of a life that was waiting for you. And while it's tempting to call this regret, it's something deeper. It is the awareness that you had been called and you did not answer. But this truth is not meant to shame you. It is meant to awaken you, because even now, the signs have not stopped. The universe is not telling your delays with resentment. It is simply adjusting the rhythm of your awakening to match your willingness to respond. This is why grace is woven into the fabric of existence. Every moment can be the first step, no matter how long you've been standing still. And yet, you must understand, the longer you wait, the more deeply your patterns root themselves. Neuroscience shows us that repeated thoughts and actions carve neural pathways in the brain, like grooves in a record. The longer a pattern plays, the harder it becomes to shift the track. And this is why acting on a sign in the moment is so powerful. It interrupts the old groove and begins to carve a new one. Think of a river flowing toward the sea. Every bend, every current has been shaped by years of water carving the land. To change its course requires either a sudden flood, a dramatic life event, or a series of small, intentional shifts over time. Acting on signs is like making those small shifts. Ignoring them is allowing the river to deepen its old path. So what is the true emotional cost of ignoring a sign? It is not simply missing an opportunity. It is slowing the evolution of your own consciousness. It is building a life that is functional but not alive. It is teaching yourself that your inner voice can be silenced and then forgetting what it sounded like. But here is the gift. The moment you decide to listen again, everything changes. The signs become louder, the synchronicities more precise, the feeling of alignment undeniable. The cost of delay is real, but so is the reward of presence, and the universe and its infinite patience will always meet you the moment you return. There comes a moment in every awakening when hesitation must give way to movement. It's not a moment marked by fireworks or the grand fanfare of destiny. Often it is a quiet choice, so quiet that the world outside does not notice, but the world within shifts forever. This is the moment when you answer the call. Answering a sign does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as saying yes to a conversation, taking a detour you can't explain, or opening a book you feel strangely drawn to. But within that small yes lies something vast. You are aligning yourself with the current of synchronicity. Synchronicity is not just meaningful coincidence. It is the dance between your inner state and the events of the outer world. Carl Jung described it as the causal connecting principle, a link that exists not because of cause and effect, but because two events share meaning in your life. In neuroscience, this can be understood through the principle of predictive coding. Your brain continuously generates models of reality based on your beliefs, expectations, and focus. When you attune yourself to meaning, your brain begins to highlight events that resonate with your internal state, creating the experience of synchronicity. But here's the deeper truth. Synchronicity isn't rare, it is constant. The question is not whether it exists, but whether you are tuned to notice it. And the act of answering a sign is like adjusting the dial on a radio. Suddenly, the static clears and you hear the song that has been playing all along. Stepping into this flow begins with a simple practice. Presence. Not presence as an abstract idea, but presence as a physical, emotional, and energetic reality. When you are present, you are not just existing in the moment. You are inhabiting it fully, your attention rooted in the now. This state of awareness makes you more sensitive to subtle cues. A word that lands differently, a glance that feels charged with meaning, the way your body reacts when you're about to make a choice. Presence is the gateway through which signs enter. Once you have cultivated presence, the next step is trust. This is where most people hesitate. They fear that following a sign will lead to disappointment, that they are misreading the signal, that they will waste time. But from the perspective of the soul, there is no wasted time. Every choice made in alignment with your intuition strengthens the pathways between your conscious mind and your deeper knowing. Even if the outcome is not what you expected, it often reveals the next step in ways logic could not predict. Think of the flow of synchronicity as a river. When you answer a sign, you step into the current. At first, the movement may feel unfamiliar, even unstable. You may wonder if you are being carried in the right direction, but over time, you begin to trust the water. You realize that the current is not separate from you. You are a part of it. Your inner state shapes the flow, and the flow shapes your inner state. Neuroscience supports this sense of interconnectedness. When you act on a sign, you create a feedback loop between your emotional brain, the limbic system, and your higher reasoning centers, the prefrontal cortex. This loop strengthens neural pathways associated with intuition, decision-making, and emotional regulation. Spiritually, this is mirrored by an increased sense of resonance, the feeling that life is speaking directly to you. But answering the call is not without challenge. The moment you step into alignment, you may encounter resistance from others, from circumstances, and even from yourself. This is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. In fact, it is often confirmation that you are moving toward transformation. Resistance is simply the friction of old patterns meeting new possibilities. One way to navigate this is through what I call micro-alignments, small, consistent choices that reinforce your commitment to following signs. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. Instead, begin by asking, what is the smallest step I can take in response to this sign? That step may be sending a message, researching an idea, visiting a place, or simply sitting in meditation with the feeling the sign evoked. These micro-alignments create momentum, and momentum is the bridge between possibility and reality. Synchronicity thrives on momentum. Once you take the first step, new signs appear, not because the universe suddenly decides to send them, but because your perception has shifted. You are no longer scanning for evidence that life is random. You are scanning for evidence that life is intelligent, responsive, and deeply personal. This shift in perception activates both the biological and energetic systems that make you a magnet for alignment. Here's the beauty of answering the call. It transforms your relationship with time. When you are in synchronicity, time feels elastic. Hours can pass in what feels like minutes, or a single moment can feel infinite. You stop measuring your life solely by the clock and start measuring it by depth, by the richness of experience, by the alignment of events, by the quiet certainty that you are exactly where you need to be. And perhaps most importantly, answering a sign dissolves the illusion of separation. You begin to see that the boundaries between you and life are not as solid as they once seemed. Every sign becomes a reminder that you are not moving through the universe. The universe is moving through you. You are both the wave and the ocean, both the seeker and the path. This is why ignoring signs delays awakening, not because the signs will stop, but because you will remain outside the current, watching the river flow without ever feeling its embrace. To answer a sign is to say, I am ready to be part of the movement. And once you enter the flow, life stops being a series of disconnected events and becomes a living conversation, one in which your choices and the universe's responses weave a single, luminous thread. So ask yourself now, what sign is waiting for your answer? And what would happen if, instead of waiting for perfect clarity, you stepped forward with the trust that clarity comes from movement? Because here is the truth. The call is already here. The signs are already here. The current is already moving. The only question left is whether you will step in. There is a moment, and perhaps this is yours, when the weight of delay becomes heavier than the fear of change, when the cost of standing still is no longer bearable, when you realize that every sign you've ignored was not a warning of what you'd lose, but an invitation to what you could become. You have felt it before, that quiet stirring in your chest, the sense that something beyond the ordinary is calling you. You have walked past the signs, yes, but you have also stopped to wonder about them. And maybe that wondering is why you are here now, listening to these words. Because in some way you already know this message is not random. It is the next sign. The universe does not speak in one language alone. It speaks through memory, through sensation, through the small coincidences that appear when you need them most. And today it is speaking to you here, now, in this exact moment, asking you to remember who you are beneath the noise, beneath the doubt, beneath the endless someday you keep promising yourself. You are not late. You have not missed your chance. The path you were meant to walk has not been erased. It waits, patient, enduring, untouched by time, for the moment you choose to step onto it. But stepping onto it requires more than curiosity. It requires commitment, not a rigid, joyless discipline, but a daily willingness to align your mind, body, and spirit with the frequency of the life you wish to live. This is where awakening is not just a thought you entertain, but a state you embody, and you do not have to find this alignment alone. There are tools, powerful, precise, born from the marriage of neuroscience and spirituality, that can accelerate the rewiring of your mind and open your perception to synchronicity more quickly than you might imagine. Tools that dissolve the static of fear, amplify your intuitive clarity, and help you hold the vibration of your highest self until it becomes your natural state. This is why I want to guide you towards something that can serve as your next step, not in theory, but in lived experience. It's a program designed for those who are ready to not just talk about awakening, but to embody it fully. Inside, you will discover practices that harmonize your heart and mind, reprogram limiting beliefs at the subconscious level, and expand your capacity to receive and act upon the signs that are meant for you. This is not a coincidence. If these words are resonating, it is because you are already in the field of this choice. The question is whether you will take it, because the truth is, awakening is not about waiting for the right time. The right time is a construct of the mind. The soul knows only now. Every sign is a doorway, but doorways are meant to be walked through, and there is no guarantee that this exact doorway will open in the same way again. So feel into this moment. Feel into the part of you that is tired of circling the forest, tired of postponing the life you came here to live. Feel into the part of you that is ready, even if afraid, to step into the current of synchronicity and let it carry you to places you cannot yet imagine. The forest is still, the path is before you, the mist is lifting. All that remains is your choice. And if you are hearing these words, you already know the sign has appeared.